Ever get that feeling like you're just scratching the surface of your abilities? Like there's this whole untapped potential thing everyone keeps talking about.
Yeah.
Well, today, buckle up because we're diving deep into your stack of sources on mind power, self-hypnosis, even getting into that kind of mind-bending idea of collective consciousness. We got some seriously thought-provoking excerpts from The Secret Law of Unlimited Mind Power, some fascinating insights on float tanks and how they can get you into that theta brainwave state, and we'll even touch on some research on global consciousness. And to help us unpack it all, we've got our expert speaker here.
Glad to be here.
So let's jump right in with The Secret Law of Unlimited Mind Power. Now, this book, it doesn't mess around. It flat out says that our subconscious mind directly affects our success.
Yeah, it's not just about, putting in the hours. It's about making sure that what's going on in your head and your subconscious is actually aligned with the goals you're setting for yourself.
Right, right. Like you could be working your tail off, but if your subconscious is holding you back.
Exactly. And what I find fascinating is how the book talks about how our childhood experiences play into this, shaping those deep-seated beliefs we carry with us.
Oh, absolutely. It's like those self-fulfilling prophecies. If you grew up hearing money is the root of all evil, your subconscious might actually be working against your own financial success without you even knowing it.
That's right, because your subconscious mind, it doesn't really differentiate between what you tell it and what's actually true. It's like having all this amazing hardware, but the software's outdated.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you've internalized a belief, whether it's about money, relationships, whatever, your subconscious is going to act on that as if it were fact.
Exactly.
So then how do we even start to figure out what these limiting beliefs are that we've picked up along the way?
Yeah.
Does the book give us any clues?
Well, it really stresses the importance of introspection, taking the time to really examine your thoughts, your beliefs, especially when they're about your goals, asking yourself, where did this come from? Is this really true, or is this just something I've always heard?
It's like questioning your default settings, right?
Yeah, exactly. Challenging those automatic responses to life's challenges.
I can see how that would be a crucial first step.
Yep.
Okay, so let's say we've done some digging and we realize, okay, I've got some outdated software running in the background here. How do we give our minds that much needed upgrade?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. The book talks about affirmations.
Yeah, affirmations, repeating those specific phrases like, wealth is pouring into my life, to kind of reprogram the subconscious.
Right, but it's not a magic spell. You can't just chant something you don't believe and hope for the best. It takes real emotional investment, a clear vision of what you want. You need that fire in your belly.
Oh, I like that analogy. It reminds me of this story in the book. I think you'll appreciate this. The author used visualization to get better at typing.
Really?
Yeah. And he didn't even touch a keyboard. He just visualized it for like 48 hours straight, and his speed increased significantly. It's wild.
Well, there is actually a lot of research on the power of visualization, especially with athletes. Olympic athletes, they use visualization to improve their performance all the time.
Wow, that's amazing. So if it works for them, it makes you wonder what kind of potential is just waiting to be unlocked in all of us. Speaking of influencing our minds, our source material also gets into some pretty mind-bending stuff, this whole idea of a collective unconscious, a universal mind that links us all. Because it always seemed a bit out there to me, to be honest.
Right. This was something explored by Carl Jung.
Yeah, the psychiatrist.
Yeah. And he believed that we're all tapping into this wellspring of shared memories, experiences, even archetypes. And he said this collective unconscious influences our thoughts, our behaviors, even our dreams.
That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Is there any actual evidence to back this up?
Well, there have been some pretty interesting studies. Like, have you heard about the one with the hidden pictures? So they found that people were more likely to find these hidden images in a picture after those images had already been shown on television.
Wait, seriously? That's kind of creepy. Does that mean we're all picking up on information without even realizing it?
It's definitely a piece of the puzzle. It suggests that we're surrounded by this sea of information, this collective unconscious, and it's influencing us in ways we may not even be aware of.
That's both fascinating and a little spooky at the same time. So if this collective unconscious thing is real, what does that mean for us in our everyday lives?
Well, think about those times you've walked into a room and just felt the energy, good or bad. Or have you ever had that great minds think alike moment, like you're on the same wavelength as someone? That could be the collective unconscious at play. Now imagine if we could tap into that power consciously.
It's like we're all swimming in this giant ocean of thoughts and stuff, and we're constantly bumping into each other, exchanging information without even realizing it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept.
It really is. If we could just figure out how to navigate those waters, who knows what we could do?
Right. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Okay, but before we get too carried away with this whole collective unconscious thing, let's get back to some more practical techniques for, tapping into the power of our own minds.
Mhm.
Our source material talks about self-hypnosis, right?
It does, and
Us.
it presents it as a really powerful tool for accessing that subconscious level.
So it's kind of like hitting that override button on our normal thought patterns.
You could say that. It's a way to bypass that critical conscious filter that we usually have up.
And then you can get right to the good stuff, to those deeper levels.
Exactly. And once you're there, you can start to plant those seeds of change, reprogram those limiting beliefs we talked about.
Okay, I like where this is going, but I have to admit, whenever I hear self-hypnosis, it still sounds a little intimidating.
I get it, it's a common concern. But the important thing to remember is that you're always in control during self-hypnosis. It's not about being controlled by someone else. It's about you taking control of your own mind.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah.
And our source material actually gives us some self-hypnosis scripts, right?
It does. It's like a step-by-step guide. It walks you through visualizations, suggestions, things like that, that are designed to rewire those neural pathways.
So it's like giving your subconscious mind a software upgrade. I love that analogy.
Exactly. It's about creating those new associations in your mind, the ones that empower you, not hold you back.
Okay, so it's like spring cleaning for your brain.
Pretty much.
Now, what about float tanks? It seems like they could play a role in all of this.
They absolutely can. Float tanks create that unique environment of sensory deprivation, right? Total darkness, silence, and that allows your brain to enter that theta brainwave state.
Okay, we've mentioned theta brainwaves a couple of times now. Can you break that down for us? What are they and why are they so important here?
Sure. So brainwave states are basically how we measure the electrical activity in your brain.
Okay.
They range from delta waves, which are the slowest and associated with deep sleep, all the way up to gamma waves, which are the fastest and associated with being really alert and focused. Theta waves fall somewhere in between. You experience them when you're in deep meditation, just before you fall asleep, and importantly, during self-hypnosis.
So it's like theta is the sweet spot where our minds are primed for suggestion, for change.
You got it. In theta, the line between our conscious and subconscious minds gets a little blurry, and that's when we're most open to new ideas, new ways of thinking. And as a matter of fact, the secret law of unlimited mind power even talks about how float tanks can actually enhance the effectiveness of self-hypnosis by getting you into that theta state more easily.
It's like they create the perfect breeding ground for those affirmations and visualizations to really take hold.
Exactly.
This is all starting to make so much sense. But while we're talking about maximizing our potential, I can't help but think about the role that our environment and the people around us play in all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Your environment has a huge impact on your mindset.
Right. It's hard to reach your full potential if you're constantly surrounded by negativity or, people who don't believe in you. And our source material touches on that. This whole idea of building the right team.
It's crucial. The book really emphasizes surrounding yourself with people who share your vision, people who uplift and inspire you.
So it's about being mindful of the energy we surround ourselves with. Are the people in our lives lifting us up or dragging us down? Do they believe in us and our dreams?
It's about creating that supportive ecosystem, one that allows for growth and positive change.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
We've all experienced how contagious negativity can be. But how do we go about actually building that supportive team? Where do we even start?
Well, the book talks about this idea of a mastermind alliance.
A mastermind alliance.
Yeah, it's basically a group of like-minded individuals who come together to support each other's success. They harness the collective energy of the group, and it helps them to accomplish goals that they might not be able to achieve on their own.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we don't have to do this alone. There's strength in numbers, and when we surround ourselves with the right people, anything is possible.
A mastermind alliance? That sounds pretty amazing. But what about those of us who don't exactly have a built-in network of, high achievers? How do we find our people?
Well, that's where the power of intention comes in.
Okay.
The secret law of unlimited mind power talks about how we can actually attract the right people into our lives. Yeah. It starts by being really clear about the kind of support we're looking for, and then holding that vision in our minds, really believing it.
So it's not just about wishing for a dream team and hoping they magically appear.
No. It's about being intentional, putting it out there and taking action. Remember how we were talking about the subconscious not knowing the difference between what's real and what we vividly imagine?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same thing here. If we believe we're surrounded by negativity and limitations, guess what? We're going to attract more of the same. But if we can shift that mindset, visualize ourselves surrounded by a team of inspiring, supportive people, we start to change the energy we're putting out into the world.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like we're kind of priming ourselves for those connections.
Nice.
But it's not enough to just
Yeah.
sit around visualizing, right?
Yeah.
We have to actually, get out there and do something.
Absolutely. Action is key. The book really stresses that. Aligning our actions with our intentions.
Okay.
It could be as simple as striking up a conversation with someone at a conference, maybe joining a new club, or even just reaching out to someone you admire online.
I like that.
The point is to be proactive, be open to those new possibilities.
Yeah, it's like that saying, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Exactly.
We can use these tools, the visualization, the affirmations, to sort of prepare ourselves mentally.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have to get out there and create those opportunities for connection.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And the more you do that, the more you'll start to see those synchronicities pop up. Synchronicities, those seemingly random events that lead to amazing connections. You meet the right person at the right time.
Oh, right, right. It's like the universe is trying to nudge us in the right direction. We just have to be paying attention.
Exactly. Be open to it.
Wow, this has been such an eye-opening conversation. Before we wrap up, though, I want to touch on one last thing. What about those those nagging doubts and insecurities that we all have, those voices in our heads that tell us we're not good enough or that we're not cut out for success? How do we quiet those down?
The book actually calls those inner gremlins.
Inner gremlins.
Yeah, those voices of self-doubt that sabotage our best efforts. It talks about the importance of recognizing those negative thought patterns and consciously choosing to replace them with positive affirmations.
So it's about catching ourselves in those moments of self-sabotage and kind of reframing those negative thoughts.
Yes, it's a process. It takes time, but with practice, we can train our minds to focus on our strengths, our capabilities, instead of dwelling on our flaws. It's like we were talking about before with the self-hypnosis, building those positive neural pathways.
It's like we're giving our brains a workout, but instead of lifting weights, we're lifting our thoughts.
Love that. Mental fitness is just as important as physical fitness, and like any workout, the more consistent you are, the more results you'll see. And those results, they can be life-changing.
Absolutely. Well, this deep dive has really hammered home the fact that we have way more power over our minds and our lives than we often realize. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. It's all about learning how to tap into that power, both as individuals and as a collective, and then using it to create the lives we want, the lives we dream of.
It's a journey, not a destination, right?
You got it.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this incredible exploration of the mind's potential. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all the fascinating source material we talked about today. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.